Welcoming you all to yet another session on 3D Graphy News. We have a great privilege and an opportunity to interview some senior respondents in the industry. Just to brief you about 3D Graphy News, 3D Graphy News is a conscious effort and an information source for respondents from 3D technology, 3D scanning, 3D imaging, 3D design, 3D materials, and also simulation software. Where all of these constitutes to the final end product in terms of being useful for sectors from aerospace, defense, automotive, to engineering, to dental, to medical, to orthotics and orthopedics, and various other specialization. So today we have an opportunity to introduce you to one of the senior respondents, who is also one of our editorial advisory members, actively doing some great research in a space in material science. Here is Dr. Bikramjit Basu. He is the professor and the Material Research Center with joint appointment at the Center for Biosystems, Science and Engineering at Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. He is currently an honorary professor at the University of Manchester, UK. He served on the faculty of IIT Kanpur during his tenure from 2001 to 2011. He has published over 300 peer reviews, ladies and gentlemen, in research papers in leading journals, and has some great numbers in terms of patents, in terms of 10 patents, and he has authored 7 textbooks and also edited 2 books and 1 research monograph in the interdisciplinary area of biomaterial science and engineering ceramics. He has also received India's most coveted science and technology award, the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize in Engineering Services in 2013. He is an elected fellow of the Indian National Science Academy and also an International Academy of Medical and Biological Engineering, Indian Academy of Science, International Union of Societies for Biomaterial Science and Engineering. So the list is very vast in terms of his constant work market. So let me welcome you, Doctor. Thank you so much for your time. Since you're back in Europe and we've also tried to match with the time zones, it's a privilege to have you and have your presence to be interviewed on this session. Doctor, just wanted to understand from you, how do you think material science and what is the scope of this particular space that we all know is definitely there, benefiting the clinicians in the country in terms of various specialization?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. SHIBU, for giving me this opportunity to have a very frank and open discussion on the present status of the field of 3D printing in India and what are the challenges we as researchers in academia and industry professionals currently experience in terms of translation to clinics. Yeah, so I think I would suggest that I can show you some of the very key slides, some introductory slides and some of the slides related to 3D printing of materials that we have been pursuing in more than last 1 decade, so that the viewers will have a much better understanding and much better perspective of some of the key details. I would not like to lose any of the key details, so therefore I thought that I would be most comfortable in showing some of the key slides in that aspect. Is it fine, Dr. SHIBU?
Yeah, please, sir. Please.
Yeah. So first thing is that, that I would like to show you that what is the clinical relevance of 3D printing. Now, if you look at this human body, this anatomical structure, what I call it from head to toe, different parts of the anatomical location in human body, 3D printing can be very useful to provide patient-specific solutions for personalized treatment. This is certainly different from personalized medicine. Many clinicians may be a little bit confused. I would like to emphasize that this will be an ideal solution for personalized treatment. Like every patient has their anatomical location with different parts in their human anatomy has different shape and sizes. For example, I'll show you later towards this presentation that cranioplasty surgery. If you start with the cranial symmetry here, if you see this part of the cranial part, with this cranial part, if patient has to undergo cranioplasty surgery as a after the decompressive craniectomy, now we can use this bone flap so that this will allow the patient to get his or her um, uh, past cranium symmetry before the surgery took place. Now, every patient has a different shape and size of the defect. Now, it is simply not possible for conventional manufacturing route to adapt, because it will take a lot of time for this, conventional manufacturing route. So this is one of the ideal case that where we have done a lot of translational studies to see that how patient-specific bone flaps can be used for cranioplasty surgery. Then if you go to dental implants or fusion cage in the surgical applications, then scapula, and then total knee joint replacement, even the hip joint replacement, the stem part. People nowadays use short stem, and then people use different stem geometry, different designs. Now, every time to adapt this variation in geometry and variation in design aspect will take the researchers and industry to take significant time. So 3D printing certainly is very important in that perspective. Now, in terms of the economic impact, if you see that additive manufacturing is valued currently at 1.2 billion US dollar, and with a compound annual growth rate of 29% in India, it's a huge number, very significant number. So, as I repeat that, it will give you this freedom of design. It provides the patient-specific implants. Their osseointegration is much better. Their functionality is much better. Certainly, with enhanced biocompatibility. So there are certainly that there is a very key potential for the growth of this 3D printing in Indian context. Now, what are the major attributes? First one is the musculoskeletal disorders for a large number of Indian patients. India is certainly going through a transition for more from a developing nation to developed nations in terms of economy, in terms of lifestyle. So therefore, we have a large aging population in India, and for example, during the independence in 1947, the life expectancy is around 35 years. And in today's time, if I'm not mistaken, I don't have that exact number, but life expectancy is certainly 70 years, which is just double than that what we are at the time of independence. And expanding healthcare access and quality to a large cross section of India, and then also India attracts large medical tourism. For example, number of patients come from African nations, from the neighboring nations like Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Pakistan. Many of these patients, they come to India for the medical treatment from time to time. And what are the restraints? That often what is reported is that some of the very costly surgeries like total hip surgery, total knee surgery, or cranioplasty surgery, many of these surgeries are not affordable to a large cross-section of the people in our society. I'm talking about in India. So there, the additive manufacturing is very important for large-scale implant manufacturing, and also there is a lack of clinical translational research involving additive manufacturing, which is one of the major bottleneck in terms of taking additive manufacturing to the clinics. So, as Dr. Shibu was telling about this, that additive manufacturing for materials for the bone replacements. So, calcium phosphate is one of the materials that has attracted a lot of attention simply because the if you know that human natural bone, it is a composite of the calcium phosphate and collagen. Collagen is a protein and calcium phosphate is the inorganic constituents. So therefore, when additive manufacturing started growing, and it started attracting a lot of attention, a large number of researchers, they started with these calcium phosphate based materials and trying to see that whether additive manufacturing can be adapted to print these materials. So this is one of the study from my collaborators group from Brueck's group in University of Würzburg. So they have used this calcium deficient hydroxyapatite bone cement in that animal model, and also they have compared with the struvite cement, which is currently used. And they have seen that that this calcium deficient hydroxyapatite as well as struvite both improves biodegradation and new tissue generation. In another study, the same group has shown about the relevance of the 3D printed calcium phosphate composites for cranial reconstruction. Right. Now, this is one of the work that we are very fascinated about it, because strontium is one of the materials, or strontium substituted calcium phosphate is one of the materials that we have investigated very early, like more than 10 years ago, or more than 7 to 8 years ago. And these particular materials, we have done 3D printing, and this is just the relevance of the strontium phosphate cement. There is a German company who has developed this calcium phosphate cement, and if you look at that magnesium phosphate cements, their strength property is fairly high, much higher than that of the calcium phosphate cement. Right. So if you look at this, how we make these materials, this is important because these materials can be very good in terms of biodegradation property and so on. So we started with precursors like, magnesium and strontium precursors. Then we have used that binders like powders with 5% HPMC binder, 5% HPMC additives, and then binder was used simple deionized water. We have used two post-processing approach. One is the sintering and one is the chemical conversion. And in the sintering chemical conversion, we have seen that what is the impact of these materials. Now, one of the important things that we have noticed that it gives a very highly connected three-dimensional porous architecture. So what you see here, it is the microcomputer tomography image of the three-dimensional porous architecture, where you can see that equivalent diameter is around 11 micrometer, whereas printed and converted, the equivalent diameter is slightly smaller, that is in the 9.6 micrometer, that is in the mode. So when I say that equivalent diameter, I'm not talking about the mean, but the peak of the size distribution, but I'm talking about more mode, because this shows log normal type of distribution. So when we have done these other techniques, like for example, dissolution behavior, because dissolution is very important and it shows a passive degradation behavior of magnesium phosphate cement. Now ceramics, many clinicians, they find they are a little bit hesitant to use ceramics because they do not have much strength reliability, like it can break at any point of time. That is the general concern. Now, to address this concern, what we have done, we have measured a large number of samples, their strength properties, and we have used classical Weibull statistics. So what does Weibull statistics tell you? Weibull statistics gives you a number or a parameter called M parameter, and M actually gives you the measure of the strength reliability. And if you look at the strength reliability of these materials, somewhere we are getting 8.8 that magnesium phosphate sintered, and 8.8 Weibull modulus is very good and is a kind of a respectable number in the ceramic community, because many of the ceramics like alumina, zirconia, they also have around 9 to 10 Weibull modulus values. This work was published in Acta Biomaterials. And we also have international collaborations, particularly with Germany, in the field of 3D printing. As you see that that there is exchange of the young researchers between the two countries, and also Indian researcher visited Germany, and then we have published a few papers, research papers in this particular area. Now, zirconia is one of the materials which is used for biomedical applications as a dental crown, for example. Also, zirconia toughened alumina is used as a femoral head. Ceramtech Germany has commercialized this material quite extensively around the globe. Now we are trying to understand that whether binder-jet 3D printing, like same technique that I have shown you in the last few slides, whether that can be adopted to zirconia. And it was not an easy thing. It was in fact a nightmare to do binder-jet 3D printing of zirconia. We have tried several approaches, including infiltration of the zirconia, printed body with zirconia precursors. We have used different stabilized zirconia, 3 mole % stabilized zirconia or magnesium stabilized zirconia. While we are able to get a reasonable number in terms of the viable modulus, what we found that strength is fairly low. And if you look at the strength values, like flexural strength is 12 megapascal or compression strength is less than 10 megapascal, which is really brittle. That means it has a lot of porosity, intrinsic porosity, as well as processing induced porosity. Now, in order to address that, we have found out that typically the binder-jet 3D printing gives you core shell type of morphology. We have recently patented a technique where this core shell type of core cell based printing can be avoided, and instead we can bypass that by adopting a more intelligent way of processing zirconia. Okay, next I'm going to show you for another applications where we are targeting is these nerve graft applications. Nerve graft essentially means it is a cylindrical nerve graft which is made up of the polymeric materials reinforced with ceramic. Now polymers here we are trying to see is the gelatin methacrylate. Now, what is the clinical perspective for this nerve graft? If you look at the nerve from another source, now for this is a case for the 41-year-old patient with a adenoid cystic carcinoma of the parotid, and a vascularized nerve was harvested, and this is a great auricular nerve. This is option for donor nerve graft. Now, if you look at one, what people normally do is that autograft, that is a gold standard. So neurosurgeons, they cut the nerve from another part in the leg, and then they take it and then they put it here, so that this autograft will allow this signal transmission to take place from in the damaged part, from this part to this part, like that. So we are trying to see that whether this approach can be replaced by placing synthetic nerve grafts. So for that we have used this hydrothermally synthesized nanohydroxyapatite. Now nanohydroxyapatite I'm not going to spend in much time. Just to show you, we are able to achieve very fine nanometer sized nanometric hydroxyapatite with the width of around less than 50 nanometer, and it has an aspect ratio of 9 to 10. It has hexagonal symmetry and so on. We have done extrusion process of the extrusion 3D printing of gelatin methacrylate nanohydroxyapatite. We are able to grow large structures. I'm going to show you how these structures were made. But before that, I want to show you some scientific results of this nanohydroxyapatite reinforced gelatin methacrylate. And what you see that their swelling analysis can be quantitatively assessed, and then it shows very good swelling properties, and also their uniaxial compression properties. We are getting up to strength up to 300 kilopascal, which is kind of quite a clinically acceptable numbers. And this table essentially gives you summary of that. What is the strength properties we are getting? G stands for gelatin methacrylate, HA stands for hydroxyapatite. With 5% hydroxyapatite, we could boost the strength to more than 300. Elastic modulus also more than 300 kilopascal and so on. Now, in terms of that, that how the structure is being built, now we have used the different machines. Now, what we are planning to do, I'll just see that whether I can show this. So first, I'll show you one particular machine that we are using. That is that Abhay Biosciences India. Now here I must emphasize that in this particular journey on 3D printing of implants, I have been consciously mentoring some of the 3D printing company startups in India, and these 3D printing startup companies, they are essentially customizing various 3D printers, and we have been working very closely with them in the customization process. We give them very regular feedback how to improve the functionality of the 3D printer, what are the lacuna they have, how do they address. And I must say that it is a very satisfying experience, because while we can always use the 3D printers which are commercialized from companies from Europe or United States, but we have a responsibility to inspire and also to help the 3D printing startups. Now for that, before I show you that, so this is one of the approach that I was telling you, that that this is a technology platform that we have established with Abhay Biosciences, and they have Origin bioprinter, they're cross-linking UV type, and they have a commercialization approach I have been developing. In fact, we have written a joint proposals for the identification of existing implant manufacturing technologies to be fine-tuned for reduced printer costs, scalar volume, post-market validation, initial trials, and consultations with the clinicians. So what you see here, this is a movie from Abhay Biosciences of the printer that we are currently using. Dr. SHIBU, are you able to hear the sound also?
Yes, doctor.
Okay. Okay, so this is the same Abhay Biosciences 3D printer we have used to print our nerve grafts. Now I'm showing you that how you can see that how this structure is getting built. So typically neurosurgeons, they require 20 millimeter long height and around 4 millimeter internal diameter and with a wall thickness of 2 millimeter. So we are able to fabricate this kind of nerve graft materials by in situ cross-linking, by using UV straight in situ UV cross-linking process. And then you can see that in the 3D printing, both these two things are important. One is the printability, another is the buildability. A printable ink may not have a very good buildability. Buildability means when the structure is getting built, longer structure you can print. And you can see that, when we did this German machine Envision-Tech, and how we can print the gelatin methacrylate chitosan, not the same composition, but I'm showing the different composition. So these are like different things, different machines that we have used in Envision-Tech, and this is a Rovi biosciences printer. So in Indian Institute of Science, we have both their Indian-made 3D bioprinting machine as well as German-made 3D bioprinting machine. Our researchers are constantly using both these machines, and as you see that real demonstration how this 3D printing is pursued in a layer by layer manner, in a very intelligent manner. So let me move further and let me show you some of the clinical translational research. So before that, Dr. Shibu, do you have any questions up to this part?
Yeah, so doctor, now when it comes to soft tissues, as you mentioned, it is used in various aspects with bioinks in terms of what it can actually offer. As you mentioned about the nerves is also a possibility. What about the heart tissues, doctor? Do you see that in orthopedics, because you have load bearing, is there a possibility to also achieve a material which can be hard and can sustain compared to a titanium, or it's still in the research space that we are in?
Yeah, it's more in the research space because more than 10 to 12 years ago, I have done very limited work on polylactic polyglycolic acid based electroconductive cardiac patches, but that was in a conventional technique. We did not explore this domain yet, but I believe that it will be a soft tissue. But two things for the cardiac tissue engineering applications. One is that patch should be electrically conductive, and patch should support the proliferation and beating of the cardiomyocytes. Cardiomyocytes is the cardiac tissue specific cells, and they should be able to beat when you give. They should have that beat. They should have the beating ability like 1 hertz frequency, like same as 60 to 70. That pulse rate and all. And also that, when you give electrical stimulation to the cardiomyocyte cell, they should be able to beat it. Yeah. So I'm not aware anybody has been successful yet to develop and clinically translate this cardiac patch using 3D bioprinting technique. Okay, yeah. So do you want me to show you some of the translational research?
Yeah, please. The cranial implants in terms of where
cranial implants. If you see that we have done this clinical translational study with two research groups or two hospitals actually in India. One is at Ramaya Medical College in Bengaluru, and one is the Dattamek Institute of Medical Sciences in Wardha near Nagpur in Maharashtra. So what you see here, we have taken so first of all, that what is the clinical relevance is that if a patient has a stroke or injury or brain tumor, now this part of this, if it is removed, then there is a depression in that brain on the human cranium. So what we do, we have taken the CT scan data from the clinicians. We have processed it using the DICOM 3D slicer or mixer and all, to make it as a stereolithography file. Before that, we have to delineate the cranium defect in terms of their size, in terms of the area of the defect, in terms of the thickness of the bone flap, and so on. Then after that, we use the 3D printing to develop the 3D print defective cranium model. And then we have casted this polymethyl methacrylate bone flap, and then we have implanted in the patient. This is the intraoperative clinical images. After the patient is a post-operative, you can see this large defect can be healed in this patient. So we have done this surgery in two hospitals. In the Bangalore, we have completed study on 10 patients. In Wardha, we have completed the study on at least 6 patients. So 4 more patients to be recruited and we are currently doing the 3D printing and bone flap. Now, if you look at this particular movie here, that how these doctors are placing, how the doctors are placing the clinical things. Just one second. Sorry. Yeah. How the doctors are placing this bone flap during this cranioplasty surgery. You can see this. This is the operation theater. So patient is full body anesthesia, and then they have opened this cranium part, and then they are putting this bone flap there, and they are putting the titanium screws so that they can fix it. Yeah. And they can fix it, and after that you can see that when they open the skull, you can see that there is how these titanium screws are being placed there. So we have done this so this work was published in the Telegraph actually, and then it also attracted quite a bit of attention. Now we don't stop there. We bring more and more clinicians on board. Like you can see this. This is a very famous clinician, neurosurgeon, Dr. Manish Baldia, who has moved from CMC Jaslok Hospital in Mumbai, and various other clinicians like Dr. Iradbar and all. We have brought all of them together in a national conclave on cranioplasty so that to understand, and we have developed a cranioplasty app also to see that, how this app can be very useful to collect the data during the cranioplasty surgery. So data collection and data restoration, data maintenance and data analysis is very important in the medical sciences. And then we had this workshop conclave in Bangalore. Very limited a number of participants were there, including young researchers. As you can see, the front row is full of young researchers who are sitting, who participated there. And that was, I would say, we could discuss many things, which was essentially very useful to plan our more and more cranioplasty surgery. So this is in summary that what we have done. What I have not covered is our recent research on metal 3D printing. In collaboration with MS Solutions Private Limited. You can see that using this commercial model of the stem and commercial model of the broach, we could print both of them, and they have a surface roughness very less than 1 micron and so on. So this is our impact of our interdisciplinary translational research. What I have not shown you in today's interview is that we have also worked on the dental implants like T2 Dent that has been contract manufactured to Orca Medical Devices Private Limited. With my under my advisory role, Tata Steel has also commercialized hydroxyapatite powders. This is the acetabular liner. Here we have the industry partner as Indo-MM Private Limited, cranioplasty surgery as shown. And in more scientific aspect, we have done stem cell-based regenerative bioelectronics for, just to drive the stem cells towards this different cell lineage. So this is that overall this creation of the clinical translational research. There are large number of young researchers are being trained. I would say around 50% of them are also trained in this 3D printing and 3D bioprinting in my group. And what I would like to I am excited about just to see that, how this translation and commercialization both can take place in this particular ecosystem. And for there, we'd like active collaboration or active cooperation from Union Ministry of the Health and Family Welfare, Science and Technology, Heavy Industry, Public Enterprises, Commerce and Industry, and so on. But we need to bring together both the translational ecosystem and manufacturing ecosystem together.
Doctor, thank you so much. Yeah, Doctor, thank you so much. I think it was a very interesting presentation. You covered almost every aspect of human anatomy, coming from cranial to maxillofacial to orthopedics. What I'm also trying to understand is what are the various new exciting materials that we should be looking at, Doctor?
It is one of the materials is magnesium alloys. Another materials is that different tissue engineering graft materials like collagen based materials, and then polycaprolactone. PCL. So these are the new materials. But new materials is always a challenge. It is better that we need to use that FDA approved material, so that approval process is much will not be that much of a challenge, because new materials, it has to go through several stages of this certification and validation, right? Both in the preclinical models as well as the clinical studies, limited number of patients, more number of patients, and so on. So we have to do all those things, yeah. So I think that is one of the messages that I have to give it to the young researchers.
Yeah.
Anything
Also,
else?
Doctor, now that we also been able to formulate this 3D Graphy as a consortium, we have researchers, scientists, doctors, clinicians from various specialization coming together, and also respondents coming from the 3D technology space in terms of machine solutions, software, simulation, all put together. Because it's everything has to be an ecosystem to see that you get the right
That's right.
solutions. Yeah. So we've been able to, and we are very honored to also have you as an advisory. Doctor, this 3D Graphy Medical Conference, what is that you probably would, I'm sure so happy that on 25th you will also be sharing your insights detail. We'll also have other speakers join in. So it will be a great insight and learning. What do you think a platform like this can do, Doctor, in the larger interest?
These can serve as a very, very effective and important platform to bring clinicians and to bring industry people, both the key stakeholders on the same platform. Because if you see that most of the conferences of the clinicians conference, like whether it's orthopedic conference, dental conference, the academic researchers who have been working for so many years, we are never invited to present our work, because somehow I feel that there is a lot of distance between the practicing clinicians and then biomaterial scientists or bioengineering scientists. However, the reverse is true. However, we always invite many of the clinicians to our conferences, right? So, but we need to bridge the gap. But how to bridge the gap? Again, that participation of industry is also important. Participation industry, many times they come or they do not come to that academic conferences. So we should have a platform where both the key stakeholders come together and discuss and then drive or accelerate the progress in this particular field of research, which has great societal relevance for the patient care. So thank you very much, Dr.
And one more thing, Doctor. Even when it comes to problem statements, do you strongly believe that data analytics, I'm sure, is going to be the key, because with AI and making more.
We are currently working on that, artificial machine learning, particularly to accelerate biomechanics related solutions, 3D printing of metals, like how to accelerate this, how to reduce the time, how to reduce the cost involved, and how to develop our more and more predictive ability to whether it comes to the property predictions, whether it comes to the microstructure predictions, whether it comes to the clinical performance predictions. We have been working for last 2 to 3 years on that artificial machine learning tools, and recently we have published a very key papers on biomaterials. Biomaterials essentially stands for the convergence of the biomaterial science with the data sciences, and this paper is written with an objective to attract more and more data scientists to the field of biomaterial science, right? So there is again a large gap, because both the domains, they do not understand each other's well. So biomaterial science in one hand, data science in another hand. So I have taken a lot of time over last 3 years or so, and then this is the paper just published in ACTA Biomaterials. So you are absolutely correct that that analytics, different artificial machine learning tools would going to play important role. So
because
thank
sir,
you very much.
every case is also different, Doctor. Even I'm talking about a simple case of a TMG. Every anatomy being different, I think this AI with biomaterials and for clinicians to work together would be a great achievement going forward,
Sure.
sir. And thank you, sir, for all the good work that you've been doing in material science,
Sure.
and also trying to infuse in with AI and various other things in terms of the effort made. And we are very proud of you as a scientist and a researcher from India in terms of doing some great work. And we will consciously work towards it, Doctor, because we are a catalyst in the space with 3D Graphy news now. we've become a news source, and every day there is some new topics that we will want to come out with, and even
That's
in
right.
biomaterials in terms of connecting the chords with the right people. And look forward, sir. And now that you're also the editorial advisory member in 3D Graphy News, I see an opportunity for us to work together to ensure that the clinicians also are well uh,
Sure.
aware of
Well
the
versed,
process going
well
forward.
aware of this
Thank you
recently.
so much, sir, and thank you so much for your time. And look forward to you in our subsequent event, which is to be
Sure.
held in the month. Thank you, sir. Good day, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.